I have been feeling so incredibly unconfident when it comes to how I look, how I feel, what I'm doing with my life, and even like my morning routines and my night routines and everything. And it has been really, really weighing on my mind. There's an infinite amount of ways to fix yourself. I will doom scroll how to fix acne, how to make my hair grow longer, and then when I'm tired of that, I'll find something else to nitpick about myself, and then I'll doom scroll that for a little bit to see if there's not something else that I can buy or someone I can talk to fix something else because I guess that's what I am. I'm a fixer. I'm a fixer of things. But I've been recently realizing how much my brain has been moving. My brain has been going at absolute light speed. And I can't really turn it off. I try. And so I've been trying to find ways to calm myself down, and that is where meditation comes in. I know what you're thinking. You probably think meditation's not for me or meditation's just sitting there, which it basically is. There is many different types of meditation, but I've been trying to like slow down essentially. Really sit with my thoughts and try and understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, why I'm feeling so unconfident. Is it something to do with like anything I can actually change and level up, or is it just to do with what I'm consuming? Are things that I'm consuming telling me that I should be unconfident about something that I would have otherwise not even noticed about myself? But anyways, recently I went to a drum circle and it actually really helped me with my self-confidence and my overall feeling about myself, my satisfaction about myself. And I wanted to share little tidbits that I talked about with this guy. He's from Ireland and he was the one that was leading the drum circle. I wanted to share some wisdom from him. He really was like a wise old man, and I could have talked to him for ever. Um but he opened the drum circle, and also here's the thing, this is my first drum circle I've ever been to. It wasn't on, like, my list of things to do, but I got invited out of nowhere, and I had just, like, a feeling to go. I was like, "Sure." And I love learning about other cultures, about other practices, about other ways of doing things or seeing things, and this one was specifically a Celtic drum circle because this guy is from Ireland, Dublin, Ireland, actually, and it was just incredible to have him talk me through what he thinks, especially Western civilization, is missing. He was talking about the difference between Europe and America and how everybody is just in a hurry everywhere, he said. Driving, walking. He said that everything is so utilitarian in America whereas you go to a restaurant in Europe and he's like, we're all sitting and chatting, we maybe, have a beer or a wine and we still chat for a while, and then we finally decide what we want, and then after we eat, we still sit there and we actually hang out and talk. And no one's in a hurry, no one needs to leave most of the time unless it's like a very specific reason. And he's like, American restaurants are so utilitarian. You walk in and you are just ready to order already. You don't even look at the waiter or the waitress. And then you get your food, and all you're doing is you're just tapping, you're waiting for your food. And then once you get your food, what do? You pay and you leave. And it's like there's no other reason to go out besides getting the food, shoving it down, and leaving. And he was talking about like the differences between how there are a lot of rituals that people in the Celtic traditions will do that a lot of people, in America won't do. And when I say rituals, I don't want you to think I'm like, there's a lot of ways to describe what I mean. Rituals, routines, ways of doing things, ways of letting go. It's not just like, I feel like some of these words that I'm going to use are going to have a negative connotation to them, but I believe that everybody practices these things in their own type of way, whether it's called a ritual or it's called a routine. It doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't. But he was explaining to me how like people really have like a spiritual sized hole in their heart when it comes to tradition. And he is very connected to his ancestors and the ways that they did things and passing it down. And he's like, a lot of Western civilizations, like, they don't connect to that part of themselves anymore. They don't even believe in ancestry or ancestral guides or anything like that. And he's like, I believe that a lot of things are lost through the grapevine because of that. So one of the practices that he said he really likes to do is to do um, different releasings. Some can be for, like, the lunar calendar or, like, the equinoxes or the full moons and whatnot, and I know that's not like, a lot of people do that. But he was also saying, like, in the Celtic tradition, the next day actually starts at night. That is actually the start to the next day. So what you need to do is you need to release the day that you just had and prepare for the next day to come, but they truly believe that the next day starts that night, which I thought was beautiful and interesting and a great way of looking at how to, like, even just logistically plan your days. But he was also saying, like, language is very different from his Celtic traditions versus, like, America. How when they talk about emotions, they in their translation of things and in the way they write in their books and stuff, they talk about emotions as if you're putting it on like a cloak. You're putting it on like clothes. You're choosing to have that emotion, or that archetype is what he would say. And you can, because you're aware that you're putting it on, you can also be aware to take it off. So he says, like, we put on so many layers throughout the days, throughout the weeks, throughout the whatever, it gets so heavy, and then we don't have ways to release, to let go, to shed those layers, to then be able to have the stamina to put on whatever layers we want to later on, if that makes sense. Thought it was very beautiful. And I thought language was something that was really interesting that he was talking about that we have lost. There was a book that I was reading recently in my book club called Braiding Sweetgrass. We had finished it, and she talks about how the I never knew how to pronounce this, but the Potawatomi, I'm not trying to be mean here, I genuinely forget. Her native language that she grew up speaking, they had very specific ways of talking about nature. Nature and things weren't inanimate objects, they were living things. And the ways and the verbs that they would call or they would use for these things made them living, okay? And each what is it? Like each tree or each plant had like a sort of archetype that was connected to it, which is interesting because I thought the same thing that this guy was talking about in my drum circle, that like there's different archetypes that like blend in throughout all of our life what we don't really realize, and so we don't know that we're taking on these certain things. But again, with braiding sweetgrass and language and how important language is, Braiding Sweetgrass talks about how they used to have the language to say that things were alive, that trees were just as important and used in the same way as like your grandma would be or your grandpa would be. And because of that, she believes that that trickled down to respect of nature, to the respect of the earth, to Mother Earth, because the language taught you to have the respect for that. And I think that there's so many things that have been lost because of different languages, because of our language, and what he was talking about too, which these are all different examples of language, is he was also talking about in the Thai language, which don't quote me on this, but he said this. In the Thai language, they don't use tenses. Everything is in the present moment, which is such a beautiful way to live. So, like, he's like, they literally will say, I go shopping. Even if they went shopping earlier that day, they will say, I go shopping. And he was saying, like, everything is in the here and now. What do you think that makes them feel throughout the day and throughout the weeks? Like, maybe the language is strong enough to have them be more present because there's no time. You're always here. Even if you're talking about past time, you're talking about it as you're here. I thought that was so interesting. But anyways, I want to get into the meditation that I did. I don't know how much I want to share about the meditation, and then we're going to talk to a special guest, a little expert in the field of meditation, to get her thoughts on certain things, as well as to help you guys, because although I like talking about whatever the heck I want to on this show, I like also providing as much value as I possibly can, even if it's entertainment or it's something a smarty pants told me. um, but in this meditation, he was talking about how you needed to have an intention, a question, and then basically just let yourself go. And you are going to imagine yourself walking down, down, down these stairs as he's starting to drum. And then whatever happens, happens. Okay? So my intention was what I talked about at the very beginning of this episode was how can I be how can I love myself? How can I be more confident? Um, where is that coming from? I don't know. I didn't have like one specific thought, but it was the intention of like, how can I figure out self-confidence and what's happening and why I don't feel as good right now? And it was crazy because like there's sometimes if you're a person that's not visual with meditation, that's totally fine. I feel like it comes with practice. And or I also feel like it's incredibly random. So this meditation was very vivid for me. Very, very vivid for me. And other times I'm like, I don't feel like I got nothing. I got literally nothing. I saw the black between my eyelids. That's what I saw. Um, but this meditation, I was immediately transferred to this like medieval time, and I was literally wearing like a dress. I was walking down these like cobblestone stairs inside of this castle. It was really chaotic at first, and then I mean, there's probably so much symbolism that I like feel like I still have to unpack like what actually happened. There was these people that were trying to cross this drawbridge, but the drawbridge was like the one in Shrek, where like it's like really crookedy. Is that a word? And had like ropes, and there was holes, and people were falling through the holes. And because the wood was breaking, but somehow I got through, and then I got to this tower, and I was looking around, and then I got all the ways down to this to these gardens, and there was this lady there, this older lady. She kept looking at me. And I would like try and walk up to her and then she would leave. And then I try and walk up to her and she would leave. And I was like, what the heck? And I ended up walking through these gardens of this castle and then down onto this beach. This is where it gets crazy, okay? Click off now if you think none of this is real or none of this matters. But it was just so real to me. And there's so much symbolism, but um, I walk down and I like see this sword wash up on the beach. And so I grab it and I'm like, oh, interesting. And something that I've learned from my mom literally studies at Sophia University. She studies dream studies and meditations. And she's talking about how, like, whatever you see in your dream, yes, I could possibly tell you what it means, or I could try and have a guess, but the feeling and the intent behind what you actually felt when you saw or experienced that thing is going to be way more knowledgeable for you than it ever is going to be for me telling you what you felt, if that makes sense. So, for me, I feel like this sword was like some sort of like I'm putting armor on or I'm needing to protect myself. I don't know if that was like a good thing or a bad thing, and then I see this lady walking in the distance, and she has like fiery red hair. And she was like literally and figuratively on fire. It wasn't like a scary fire, it was like she was burning so bright and just had so much like source energy, so much fire and desire inside of her that you could literally see it from the outside. And I was looking at her like, wow, is that me? Or like, can I be that? And I was just admiring, like, the way I felt when I was around her, and crazy enough, there was this white dragon that she got on, she was flying. I know it sounds crazy, okay? It sounds like I I had a little bit more than just a drum circle, but I swear to you, this was all out of meditation. And then, like, later on, I'm walking down the beach, and there was more women, and they were dancing and laughing, and they were on fire, like, literal fire, and I started dancing and laughing with them, and I started to become on fire. I was, like, emanating heat, and as in the meditation, I literally felt heat coming off of my body, like, I felt myself getting hotter, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, it feels so good to be free," and there was people on the beach watching us, and it almost seemed like the spectators on the outside that didn't feel like they could actually be on fire. Granted, we also didn't have any clothes. I know that might sound weird. It wasn't weird like that. It was almost to symbolize, at least for me, like, just living in your own, being in your own energy, being okay with yourself, dancing in front of people, not worrying about a thing. And that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like the spectators on the beach liked watching the free expression, but they were too worried to do that. And so it was like me stepping into being able to do something like that. One more thing that I'll share before we get into our guest expert segment where I do a call is after we danced, I went up into the castle again where the old lady was. And I was talking to her, or I was trying to talk to her because I was like, I still don't feel like I got any insight on what I should do. I'm a little confused here. How do I feel better about myself? And She started writing on the chalkboard. I couldn't make up, or I thought I couldn't make up the word, but she was writing and she was like, writing, "You are Shemaiah or Shmaya. You are Shmaya." And I don't know how to really pronounce it besides that. And I was like, maybe it's an Shmea, Shmia, or Shamya, like Shemaiah. Um, but that stuck with me, and she was getting mad at me, and she was like, "Here, here, here, look." And literally, let me just show you. Let me just show you what it means, okay? I showed it to my mom, and I didn't even realize to look it up till the next morning. This is what it means. So, obviously there's going to be a few different whatever it's called, definitions, but this was just at least really interesting to me. So it says, well, there's a lot. Shmia in Hebrew means the word of act or listening or hearing. Okay? It also down here says Shmaya is a name meaning in Arabic, and it means elevated, sublime, or beautiful. Often also means God has heard you. Then the last one, it says Shmia in yoga spirituality. Some interpretations connect this to an elevated state of awareness or listening with the whole self rather than just hearing sound. I didn't know that word before. Very interesting to me. The fact that I was able to see a word in my meditation and then it actually means something, but not only something, but the intent and the intention of which I asked the meditation for. Huh? Like, that was. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe you don't believe in any of this. But for me, I sat there and I was like, okay, so not only do I need to listen with my whole self and probably meditate more, is what I thought, but also the whole intention as to why I was meditating is because I didn't feel good about myself. And the lady's pointing at this word that literally means beautiful and sublime. And it was, you are this, you are this. And she was upset at me that I didn't understand or I didn't know that that's the case. And like, I am of the belief that whatever it is you believe and whatever practices you choose to do will help you. So, because of that, I was like, wow, I really need to, one, meditate more, but two, find ways and rituals in my own life to take off the layers so I can listen and hear with my whole self. So I can really hear what God, source, universe, whatever you want to say, is trying to tell me. Because clearly, like, my subconscious or my spirit guides, whoever is sitting there, like, you need to actually listen. You need to listen. You need to stop asking, stop talking, stop doing all these extra things, almost letting go. So when I opened my eyes and I talked to him about this, he was like, one, I really feel like a lot of the feminine energy, especially in like Western civilizations, a lot of women don't feel like they can really show that fire, that creative fire, that sexual energy, if you want to call it, that like the light within them. He says at least, like the women he works with, it's hard for them to really express themselves like that. So that was his interpretation, which I was like, okay. I mean, I'm not gonna. You're a wise old man from Ireland. I trust you, okay? But really, he actually was really great. I'm not just saying that. And then another thing was like, I just need to trust myself and my intuition more that things will work out and and find ways and practices of things that are gonna be good for me. Something he also said at the end was, um, he's like, you need to get in the shower and then get out and just look in the mirror and just look at yourself. Look at yourself long enough to stop judging yourself, however long that takes, which that might take a little bit of time. But he's like, you need to like be comfortable in this because if you're always rejecting yourself, it's going to show up in different ways. And yeah, that is what I learned. So crazy. But if you liked this, we are also going to talk to an expert. She is also my sister, but she has been doing yoga and yoga therapy. She does Costa Rica yoga retreats. She teaches tons of women about not only meditation, but how to live a better, fuller life. So we are going to get into that call here. Hello, Kinley, and welcome to the Brighten Your Day show. For those of you who don't know Kinley, she is my sister. But on top of that, I would love for you to introduce yourself. I know it's cliche, but introduce yourself real fast, what you do, and why yeah, and we'll get into why I wanted to talk to you for my little segment of ask someone else smarter on this topic.
Is that what it's called? I love that.
I have no idea, but maybe it will be called that.
Oh, okay. So I'm Kinley. I'm Brighton's older sister, and I've been teaching yoga therapy to women who've experienced trauma or just anxiety for the last 9 years. I've hosted retreats in Costa Rica, and Brighton's actually been able to come on some of them. And then I also do clairvoyant readings, which none of this, I was going to be a nurse before, and now I've done a 180 and I do all these crunchy things. So that's me.
I absolutely love it. For since you don't know, because I've been talking previously before this for my episode, why I wanted to talk to you is because I was doing a lot of meditation, and that's kind of how I opened. Is I've been struggling with self-confidence and racing thoughts and doom scrolling and all of those things, and so I was trying to meditate more often, but it wasn't really working. And then basically, long story short, I got invited to this drum circle with our mom actually, and it was so cool, so amazing. I had like the most vivid, odd, interesting meditation. And maybe if we have time, I could even talk to you about it for a little bit. But it was just so crazy. But I also feel like I got some insights. So I wanted to talk to you because obviously you are, good at meditating, good at the spirituality side of things. And so my first question is, do you think meditation is something that everybody should try? And also, do you think it's something that could help me in my own particular circumstance?
Mm. Okay, short answer, absolutely. But long answer is it's way more complex than that. I don't like the word complex, but I think that the stigma of what meditation is sit down, hold still, don't move, close your eyes, People think that that's what
Right.
meditation is, but I think that there's a lot of types of meditations, like the drum circle. I would say that that is a form of meditating, drumming and being like in unison with other people, like in flow.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I would say meditation helps, but I would say even deeper than that, that it's important to know what type of meditation works for you.
Right. Which actually gets me into my next question. If you struggle with meditation, and also I was going to say self confidence because that was kind of what I was meditating on before. Uh, what do you what do you say to the people that struggle with meditation or with sitting and like what we think of as meditation? What would you say to that person?
Okay, what I would say would be a question, and it would say, what is it that you're struggling with? Is it the sitting still
Mhm.
portion of it, of like boredom, ADHD, like wanting to do something? Or is it struggle like carving out time to do it, or struggle with like your relationship with source or yourself? Like there could be an array of things that are making people struggle. And so I think that it's important to get clear on what your block is. But if you are one of the people who, there's a majority of people who just struggle carving out time to sit still with their thoughts without being like, oh yeah, I forgot to text so and so, or oh yeah, this, which is totally normal. Like I meditate all the time and I still have to practice, okay, don't pick up your phone for 5 minutes. Like just sit with yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, to
Mm.
them, I would say start with something that like uses your hands. Like it doesn't have to be the close the eyes, fingers in the perfect position. I would
Yeah.
say find a craft that like puts you in flow. Could be guitar, could be
Mm.
painting, it could be traveler's journaling, which we're like super into. Um,
Yeah.
I would say start there. Find something you can do with your hands that shuts your brain off, but like just puts you in that flow state.
Oh, I love that. I don't think I've ever heard that before, but it makes so much sense. Like when you really are in flow with a craft at hand, like you totally do go into a different state of mind. I really, really like that. Wow, that's a good tip. That I really have to think about that for a second. I was also thinking about like for the person that's maybe like me, sometimes when I feel like I sit down to meditate, I feel like I'm not being productive enough. Like it's not a productive thing to sit. And so that's kind of like what gets me yeah. Some one of my blocks is that. What would you say to that?
Okay, so where my brain goes when you say that is look at the people you look up to the most what are they doing in their day? A lot
Mm.
of successful people are carving out time, even putting it on their schedule, on their Google Calendar. 5 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of this, even like ice bath, cold plunge, whatever. People
Mhm.
who are successful in whatever form that looks to you, almost all of them have a version of meditation that they call a non-negotiable for them. So it may not look like sitting
Right.
and
I love
doing
how you're broadening
oming.
it.
What was that?
Yeah. I just said I love how you're broadening it. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you were saying, it's not, yeah, like ice bath could be their form, and maybe they're too, or not too. Maybe they don't believe it's a meditation, but it totally
Yes.
could be and is.
Yes.
It's a
That's the thing is
routine.
you're talking to like someone who's very crunchy, but I went from not crunchy
Mhm.
to super crunchy doing like moon ceremonies and all the things, drum circles, to then like finding this middle ground of like, if I want to go there, I'll go there, but also like let's keep it sustainable. And so a lot of my
Right.
meditations are like while I'm brushing my teeth. I'm sitting there saying affirmations to myself. Like, you know the book
Mm.
Atomic Habits or habit
Yeah, yeah.
stacking, the concept of that? It's like,
Mhm.
yes, it
Mhm.
is more productive, but if that's what it takes to get you to be more intentional with your life, who's to say that that's right or wrong?
Ooh, amen to that. I love that. That actually also leads me into my next kind of question, which is a little bit of background. When I went to the drum circle, this man, and I actually keep forgetting his name, so forgive me, but it was a Celtic drum circle, and he was talking about how Western societies have lost the practice of rituals. And at first I was like, what do you mean by like rituals? Like I was like, huh? But how he would describe it is how I would describe like routines and resets and all of the things, but he was calling it like a ritual. So he was like, we have forgotten ways to like release ourselves, release our burdens, taking off. So he was talking about language and how the language that they have for emotions is you're putting on an emotion like a jacket and then you can
Mm.
take it off. So he was like, we get so weighed down by by all these emotions, all these archetypes, all these things that we forget to like release it. So I want to know your thoughts about that. And then of course I want to get into what are a few practices, routines, rituals, whatever that you think are that you like, and then maybe also super simply that someone could try.
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts to the things you said. I think that
Sorry, that was a loaded
um
question.
that's okay. You can remind me if I miss something. Um I love the word devotion. And I think it's important to get clear of what you feel devoted to. For me, it's myself. Like, I want to have rituals, which that word can be triggering for some people. I know old me would
Yeah.
be like, whoa, witchcraft, blah, like it would scare me. And so I love that you framed it in a way that's like, a ritual is also just like daily habits because it is literally the
Yeah.
same thing. It's just a different language for what it is or like what to call it. Um,
Mhm.
I, yeah, when you gave me the topic of conversation, I was like, okay, what are my rituals? Which a couple years ago, I'd be like, well, I talk to the stars every night and I do full moon ceremonies and I like do all these crazy things that I won't even say on here. Um, but now when I ask myself, like, what are my rituals? It really is the small things, the small daily things. So, for example, for me, I also think it's important to let them shift and evolve as you shift and evolve as a person. Right now, my
Right.
ritual is every day I do my skincare. And that is new to me, but ultimately, the point of rituals is to set an intention. And so when I
Mm.
do my skincare, my ritual, my intention is all that really matters. And the intention that I set is every morning I'm zipping up my energy when I do my skincare. And every night I'm releasing as I cleanse and I'm zipping my energy up at night. And that intention
Mm.
could be called a ritual, but it's one and the same to me.
Mm. I love that. I love the small things. I think that that is because he was talking about like following the spring equinox and doing
Mm-hmm.
eclipse things, and like, which I know a good amount about that, and I think that that is interesting. But I also think that daily things compound more than anything big, where I feel like that would have a bigger, better compounding effect, if that makes sense.
And you can make it as witchy as you want. Like, of course, I'm doing
Yeah.
equinox things and like scheduling group time with my friends to do like intentional equinox things or full moon things, but ultimately, day to day, I'm not sitting there with my crystals. Somebody might. That's just not me. Like, I'm
Yeah.
more
Yeah. Mhm.
practical rituals that I also go really deep, like on some of them, you know?
Right. Right. I love that. That's such a good. I feel like, yeah, just maybe for the listener, like choosing something small that you do every single day and then adding something on top of it that makes you feel good or grounded or resetted in some
Yeah.
sort of way. I feel like that's an awesome tip. I like that. I have probably one just bonus question. Didn't know where to throw it in, but I want to know your thoughts, and then I will let you be on your way. Okay. So, bonus question is, let's say someone meditates, or someone has a dream, or someone has some sort of vision while they're awake, or a premonition of some sort, or they hear something, or whatever. Um, my thought is, because when I was doing a meditation, I had like crazy vivid things happen. I didn't really understand them. How do you decode something like that? Like, let's say if someone has a crazy dream or meditation or something, is there something that you do that you feel like can help with that?
Yes. And I actually filmed a video this week about explaining my process, and then I just didn't post it. So the fact you're asking is like, ah,
Oh,
that's
really?
exciting. I have somewhere to like say it. Um, okay, so say
That's
it's a
awesome.
dream, which this could also be a meditation. I
Mhm.
do the meditation or have the dream. And if you're doing the meditation, the practice is to not hurry and sit and write stuff down and then go back into meditation. Like, you're going to get way more if you just drop in, because it's tapping into your subconscious. And if your conscious doesn't fully remember everything, it doesn't matter, because your conscious mind is like so minimal and compared to your subconscious, which is like 90%. So my encouragement
Mm.
is to stay in the meditation for one. Don't feel like you have to write it all down in the middle of it. Um, but when I wake up in the morning after I have a dream or after meditation, I'm going to just use a dream as an example. When I wake up in the morning,
Mhm.
I will take my journal and I will try to stay like in that zone. And I will try not to open my eyes, and I will just take a blank paper and I'll write with my eyes closed. And sometimes I'll peek to make sure I'm not
Mm.
writing over the same line multiple times, but I'll just write as much detail as I can remember. And then I'll close it. I will not read it. I won't even really open my eyes to fully see what I'm writing. I just like dump it. Close the journal, set it
Mm.
aside for the rest of the day. And it's not until nighttime or the next day, usually nighttime, that I'll take it and I'll open it up and I'll read it from a very like awake version of me, logical version of
Oh,
me.
interesting. Yeah.
And when I read it,
Mhm.
it is shocking to see how I described it, even though like the images were saying one thing and I was trying to get the images across, tapping out of that and being more in the logical brain and being like, oh, I saw myself stuck between a rock and a wall. Like, the things you write down are going to tell you more than what the actual
Yeah.
dream was showing you, because our brain works in symbols.
Right.
Does that make sense? And with the
Totally. No,
object,
that makes
like,
total sense. Sorry. No, that makes sense. Keep going.
okay, all I'm saying is just wrapping it up and saying that when you read it from a logical place, it's so clear most of the time what you were like, the message that was coming through. But when you're lost in like the emotions
Mhm.
of the dream or the images, it's like, well, I was seeing this, and it takes like stepping out of that to see what you actually were processing subconsciously.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh, I love that. I think that's so smart, and it's crazy because the drum circle guy kind of said the same thing. He was like, you will have maybe crazy visions or crazy, in your meditation or symbols, and he's like, and it'll start just like getting into your subconscious throughout the days and throughout the weeks, and then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh yeah, duh, that's why. Or maybe
Mhm.
you won't even know why, but then something changes in his life or in your life. So the example he gave was, he said I did a crazy meditation thing one time. Maybe it was a drum circle. And then like 3 weeks later, out of nowhere, I was disgusted with meat and I turned vegetarian. And it was like so strong that that was like correlated to the meditation he had, but he would have never known until then, until it was like, don't eat any more meat, like you are a vegetarian. And so I thought that
Yeah.
that was really interesting that it could be like weeks and months later
I
than
mean, I will
it.
say, if we want to get like woo, you are way more freaking
Mm-hmm.
powerful than you think. Like we all are psychic. We all have an intuition. We all get premonitions of like dream something and then it happens later. We might just not be aware of our dreams as much, or we think of someone and we're like, I should reach out, and then we do and they needed it. Like, we are so
Right.
powerful. We just need to learn how to harness it.
Mm. Amen to that. I love that. Well, Kinley, thank you so much. I am sitting here loving this conversation. I really appreciate all your tips and tricks, and I love that it was simple and like effective. You know, like I feel like I those are things that I can actually like implement to do to feel better. So
Yeah,
thank
good.
you.
Good. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much for doing this.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. She is genuinely the wisest soul. And I don't even just bring her on because she's my sister. She is so wise and has taught me so much, regardless on if she was my sister or not. I think her words are so valuable. So I hope you appreciated that. We are going to move on. You know, I always wish I had like a little button, like a little segment button that's like doo doo doo. Okay, on to the next segment. But I don't. And also, they got my coffee order wrong today. I keep drinking it hoping it's gonna be different. You know when you get a coffee order wrong? Or they get it wrong, and then you sit there, and then you keep sipping it, kind of like what you do when you're young, and you want groceries, and so you keep opening the cabinet door, or you keep opening the fridge, hoping that more and more food is gonna appear, and then you realize that it's never going to appear. And then you keep snacking on like the random chocolate chips in your pantry that have been there since like 2005. That is how I feel about this coffee. I keep trying to drink it, hoping that it's going to be better, but they forgot my syrup. I wanted hazelnut syrup in this. I don't taste nothing. I don't taste hazel or nut. But it's okay. I still love beanies. Beanies, if you're watching this, no hard feelings. Sponsor me. Sponsor me, actually. We are going to move on just for a little bit because obviously this show couldn't be complete without some sort of like film talk or art talk or book talk because I love arts and that's like my audience is creatives, okay? I finally watched Project Hail Mary and it was so good. So good. Like, I had no idea what it was. No idea. Here's the thing about me. I do not like end of the world movies. I watched 2012 when my sister was getting her wisdom teeth out and I needed to watch her. So they put it on and I was absolutely scarred. When it turned 2012, I was genuinely not having a good time that New Year's. I thought the world was going to end. And there's like tons of conspiracy theories that like the Mayan calendar ended on 2012 and so like we've been living in an alternate reality. Which, considering what's been happening in the world, I don't know if that's even that far fetched. But Project Hail Mary, I thought was gonna be like scary and doom and gloom, and like I thought there was gonna be a lot of like people going to heaven early and destruction. And it just wasn't like that. It was genuinely the most happy, inspiring film and so beautifully made. And then it made me realize I didn't read the book before, which I probably would have loved the book and I would have loved that experience. So if you think watching Project Hail Mary, if you think it's worth it to read the book, even though I've watched Project Hail Mary, let me know. I also heard the Audible version is pretty good too. But I absolutely loved it, and what I wanted to talk about is the lessons I learned from Project Hail Mary. Now, if you haven't watched it, this is going to kind of be a spoiler because I want to talk about the behind the scenes of what they did with the film. That's incredible, what Ryan Gosling did to just make it come to life, and then what I took away from it. That I did like more of a deep dive on it, you know? So, I want to talk first about what they did for Rocky. If you don't know who Rocky was, again, this is going to be a spoiler, but what they did for Rocky was they had actual puppeteers moving Rocky around, so he was physically there. The whole time I thought it was going to be CGI. CGI has gotten so incredible over the years that I thought for sure it was going to be, but no, he was physically there, which I thought is so cool. And also so cool as, like, an actor to be, like, actually interacting with something physical. That probably made Ryan Gosling's job a little bit easier, even though obviously he's amazing and probably could have done, just as good of a job. But so it says the production used a team of puppeteers dubbed the Rocketeers, which I love, led by James Ortiz. The filmmakers cited Pixar's ability to make audiences care for a desk lamp as inspiration defining personality in a faceless creature. I didn't even think about that actually. Then it also says advanced robotics. So the production also used beta versions of the most sophisticated motors on the market to ensure Rocky's movements matched the puppeteer's inputs with precision. So cool. Like, obviously, I know they're a big budget film, so they're able to do this, but the fact they did do this just shows how much they cared. And then another thing they said was like they actually used an earwig, which is like a little earpiece for Ryan Gosling. So every time Rocky actually spoke, Ryan Gosling would actually hear something like the lines in his earpiece, which of course that would make things more real. Like so amazing. I also want to say they not only did huge IMAX shots for like the big intense scenes, which I thought was amazing. IMAX is incredible, but they also built parts of the ship, or I think the whole ship. It might have been the whole ship. That Ryan Gosling was suspended in this like zero gravity type of harness thing that he was actually crawling around. So like they went above and beyond to make it actually real, and it just shows you how much they really cared about the art and the project in and of itself. I did an episode literally last week talking about the rise or something of sequels and prequels, and boy, we have a lot of them. And a lot of them are good, but I'm a little sick of it. So like I love that this happened. I love that it's original, that it was from a book. It just is like it was such a breath of fresh air, you know? And the last clip I want to show you is the very lesson that I learned from Project Hail Mary. It is from John Bellion. If you don't know him, he's an incredible musician. He's been around forever. And he is talking about going to Iceland to film his music video Wash. And it's just the best way to describe like what we as creatives and artists need to know. It's that we have a lot of shortcuts now because of AI, because of tech, because of special effects, because of auto-tune for musicians, because of Photoshop for photographers, everything. But we need to know when it's worth it to use those and when it's worth it to go the extra mile to not use those. To actually make Rocky as the puppet, to actually make the spaceship, to actually travel to the place to do the music video. So I'm going to show you this clip from John Bellion.
We more so slaves to the content beast.
Like our first single, Wash, we recorded a video in Iceland, shot the whole thing. I'm funding this whole thing myself, and just gave it away on a WeTransfer link for free on email 48 hours before the song came out.
Why go to Iceland when you can use AI?
At a certain point, we're just gonna have to choose to work and do the thing because working feels good.
Mm-hmm.
If we keep saying the AI thing, and it's like I'm not trying to say like I'm some sort of like future predictor of what that will all look like, but like at what point you had to grow the tree to get the apple, and then at one point you had a friend get you the apple and you paid him to get to the apple. Then you had a supermarket and all you had to do was get out of bed and go to the supermarket and there's apples everywhere. And then you had a DoorDash and they brought you the apple. So at what point is someone just gonna like mash up the apple in their hand and jam it in your fucking mouth? Like you need to have purpose at some degree. So as a human, we're just gonna have to figure out as musicians, like, I know I can get 7,000 different guitars on this in 17 seconds and it will sound better than anything I could have ever played. But like, I'm choosing to at least like go to the store and the supermarket to get my apple because I need to be in motion somehow.
Yes, absolutely. Like, he could have said it better if he tried. And that's why I wanted to reiterate for Project Hail Mary too. The fact that they actually spent the time to make the puppet and to make Ryan Gosling suspended in the air and all of these things, and to not rely so heavily on special effects, I really do believe made this film even more wonderful. And it also, like, the film was already great, but then when you learn about the behind the scenes and how much effort people put into it, it makes you love it that much more. And it makes me think about things like YouTube videos. or like Substack or anything, or John Bellion for that matter. If you found out that John Bellion's wash video was completely AI generated and he was just walking around, you know, like lip syncing, lip syncing, and there was Iceland behind him, but you found out that he did that all from the comforts of his home, wouldn't there be a little bit of you that like dies inside? A little bit of you that's sad? I I just agree. I think that's like the literal antidote to one, not getting dumber, because if you rely too heavily on any type of technology, usually that part of your brain actually down regulates, you know? Then there's like the argument that I've seen of like, yeah, even though we type instead of write and that kind of changed things for our brains, we also are more efficient in other ways that makes us smarter in other ways or whatever. But I think sometimes like to do the hard thing is the noble thing and is the right thing. And you're going to have to know when to use the tools and the AIs and when to hold back from it to serve the art and serve yourself. I'm not an incredible, like, I'm not a huge AI hater or a tech hater. I just think that there needs to be a line, and maybe only you know that line, you know? So just go with your gut. Because there's sometimes that, like, yeah, yeah, these tools should be learned and they should be used and utilized properly, of course, because if you don't, like, you kind of get left behind, especially for like your job and stuff. Like you gotta be on top of using all these things because things change, you know? The Industrial Revolution really changed things for a lot of people and people had to adapt, and everyone's gonna always have to adapt, especially in an ever-changing, ever-growing society. Okay? Because it's crazy out here. It's literally crazy out here. I don't know. I don't know. Gosh, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. You know, let's do a little cheers. Cheers. Cheers to. What are we cheersing to? Cheers to good cinema. I'm glad Project Hail Mary was great. Cheers to figuring out how to love yourself more. Cheers to good art and knowing that you are art and you can create art and and listen to yourself and meditate and all those good things. And I hope you learned something. I hope this brightened your day. And as always, I also have my podcast on Spotify and Apple Music and all those things. I have a new playlist coming out for the music that I like listening to during springtime. So I will put that in the link in the description, as well as my Substack. It is more deeper thoughts randomly. I'm not going to bombard you truly because I don't even have time for that if I wanted to. Random thoughts from the show, random thoughts that I have going about my day. I have one coming out soon that I really want you to read if you are struggling with self-confidence. If you're struggling with that, I have a good Substack coming out called I Will Not Be at War with My Body. So stay tuned for that. It's called The Bright Side. And as always, I hope this brightened your day. Bye!